Time for our Hot Reads of the Week presented by Lawson Insurance and High Street Insurance Partners. Let's start with Florida State. The Seminoles have taken the reins of the ACC, and they've run with them this year. We talked about it in our last segment. FSU, a team that might be on the doorstep of a appearance in the college football playoff. I'm curious how you think this Florida State team has wrangled power away from Clemson, who was the team to beat in this league for years on years on years.
Yeah, Chris, you and I saw earlier this week the question to Dabo Swinney's radio show where Dabo just went crazy and it became viral with his response. And part of my take on that applies to the question that you just asked me on one of these hot reads of the week. Basically, there are fair questions to ask Dabo. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't believe that anyone who's ever accomplished anything in their lives, large or small, would ever ask those questions as disrespectfully and as accusatory as that Clemson caller did to Dabo's radio show, which I think, while Dabo's answer wasn't perfect, justified the tone of his response, because eventually those with large platforms, and especially super successful people with large platforms, they do get tired of lazy, ignorant, cheap shots from people who've never accomplished anything. So credit to Dabo for that, even though his answer was not perfect. But a fair question, for example, if it's asked respectfully, as I personally asked Dabo Swinney at the ACC kickoff event and this past August, and he gave a very thoughtful, respectful answer because I knew I wasn't coming from some kind of an attack mode or accusatory or disrespectful place. It was about the transfer portal and why Dabo doesn't use it more often. And it is a fair question. And it's actually the starting point for how Florida State under Mike Norvell has at least temporarily leapfrogged Clemson under Dabo Swinney. The Tigers, of course, being two-time national champions and winning 7 of the last 8 ACC titles. Dabo, for the record, is up there next to Bobby Bowden as one of the 2 greatest football coaches in the history of the ACC. If anybody thinks otherwise, they are either delusional, ignorant, or stupid, or some combination of those 3 things. It's that crystal clear for those who will do the research. But on this particular question, I think Dabo is in the wrong. And I think those asking the questions of Dabo are in the right if they ask the question respectfully. Would you guess, Chris, and you're a knowledgeable guy who follows this stuff, I'd be, with all due respect, shocked if you got it right. Of Florida State's 11 most regular starters on offense this year, how many are major college transfers? Would you care to guess? Just to amuse me.
6.
That's a great guess. And you used your SAT logic, right? Because DJ wouldn't ask that question unless it was a large number. Well done, young man. The answer is 9. 9.
Wow.
Now, some of that is because of injuries, but just for the record, Jordan Travis, the quarterback, it's easy to forget because the transfer was many years ago, but he started his college career at Louisville. Yep. The star running back, Trey Benson, possible first-round NFL pick, an Oregon transfer. The star wide receiver, Keon Coleman, incoming this summer from Michigan State. The other star wide receiver, Johnny Wilson, incoming from Arizona State the previous summer. The star tight end on my first team All-ACC squad, as I posted it at ncsportsnetwork.com just this week, Jaheim Bell. He's a South Carolina transfer. There was no doubt how good that guy was. I watched him play in the SEC. He's improved his blocking. He was already good at everything else. He's a star for the Seminoles. All 5 of those guys I just mentioned are stars. Several offensive linemen. Dimitri Emmanuel played for the Charlotte 49ers before he went to Florida State. Other guys were at Colorado and UTEP and Lamar University, starting for the Seminoles in some cases because other OLs got injured. 9 out of 11. That's not a small impact. Meanwhile, Dabo has really been selective in the transfer portal. Quickly on defense, 6 of the Seminoles' 11 regular starters are major college transfers. Best defensive tackle, Braden Fisk of Western Michigan. Best defensive end, Jared Verse, transferred to the Seminoles year before last from Albany, of all places. Doesn't matter where you find them, as long as they're good. Tatum Bethune at linebacker is from UCF. Starting nickelback, Jerrion Jones, is from Mississippi State. One of their starting cornerbacks, Fentrell Cypress II, is a UVA transfer. 9 of 11 regulars on offense, 6 of the 11 regular starters on defense. That's not a tweak to the way college football has been done for 100 years. That is an upending of the smartest way to approach things. You still need an eye for talent, obviously. You still need to see fits for your system. It's not blindly accepting major college transfers, but Mike Norvell has mastered this new world, and Dabo Swinney has fallen behind in part because he has been stubborn about changing from some of those old-fashioned ways.
How about another topic of conversation around the country, not just in our backyard, but a larger topic, the Michigan Wolverines. There's the accusations they've been stealing signs and have been doing it in a way that people have not been doing it for years. What do you think the NCAA should do with Jim Harbaugh and his Michigan Wolverines?
I think the NCAA should go balls to the wall aggressively after Michigan. And that does not mean, remember, I have a legal background. I take this stuff seriously. It does not mean that I have a final conclusion in my mind. I am a follow the evidence guy to my core. I am a body of work guy to my core. I have no prejudice or predispositions about this case. But what excites me is, Chris, if we had to list all the reasons the NCAA has been absolutely horrifically bad historically about enforcing its own rules, number one on that long list would be what we call lack of subpoena power. In other words, if you were somehow involved in a scandal, thank you for letting me use you in this particular hypothetical way. If you were involved in a scandal, but you were not on a university payroll, and the NCAA did its investigation, if you literally or figuratively flipped the bird at the NCAA, I'm not answering your questions, I'm not giving you my cell phone, take a hike, jump in a lake, however you'd like to phrase it, nothing the NCAA can do because you're not part of their membership institutions. If you were employed as this guy who has been going all over creation, recording opposing offensive and defensive signals of future Michigan opponents, guess what? He's on the Michigan payroll. That means that Michigan has to cooperate and he has to cooperate or he will never work anywhere near college athletics again. And frankly, that's the way it should be. Because in this case, you don't need subpoena power, which is what works in the real world, right? An attorney general, a federal prosecutor, a local DA, if they want evidence that we have and we don't give it over, we can be threatened with jail in certain contexts, right? Subpoena power. Give me what I need as part of this investigation or suffer the consequences. Well, in this set of facts, unlike most NCAA scandals, Michigan and this person has to give answers or suffer the consequences. That's a much better percentage chance of getting to the truth, whatever that truth ultimately ends up being. I also think the NCAA has to be practical here. It is part of their job to know and understand to what degree this sort of sign stealing happens. As with the Astros in the World Series example, or the Houston Astros in Major League Baseball, there are forms of sign stealing that are legal, that are not against the rules. If there's a runner on second base, it's my job as a pitcher with my catcher to, come up with a system where that guy on second base can't signal something to the batter. Now, the way that the Astros were doing it was against the rules, and they should have suffered severe consequences. In this particular case, there's all sorts of legal sign stealing in college football. I am not one of those, and it seems like many fans are, who just say, they're just looking for an advantage. No, if it's against the rules to go to other teams' games and in person record their signals, why have the rule if you're not going to enforce it? The NCAA needs to find out to what degree this is happening in other places. If it's not, and again, all these coaches look for edges, but I don't know how rare it is that they're truly having members of their own staff going to other stadiums, again, not on their own game day. You can steal whatever signs you want from your own sideline to the other sideline on game day, not against the rules. But you're not allowed to send people all over creation to record and steal for competitive advantage those same signs in other games when you're not the opponent. Understand the rule, enforce it or not, and the lawyer in me says you have to make clear what severe penalties are in play when you're doing things that impact the integrity of the game. This is not a gambling issue that impacts the integrity of the game, but it's not a reach at all to figure out that if you're going to roll your eyes or shrug your shoulders at this kind of cheating, and that's what it is, then you're inviting not only a monkey see, monkey do aspect where you're just going to see more of it all over college football, and I don't think that's the direction you want to go. You're also going to see more examples where a person like that can sell that intel to gamblers for their own selfish reasons if they're not passing it up the chain. There is evidence, there must be evidence of some kind at Michigan as to what coordinator, what assistant coach, what other contact, all the way up to possibly the head coach of the Wolverines, Jim Harbaugh. That information, again, you have an infinitely better chance of finding the truth because this is an employee of Michigan's football program. Whereas if this was just a third party that was gathering this information on Michigan's behalf while not being paid by the Wolverines or not working under the NCAA umbrella, you'd have zero chance of getting to the same truth. The NCAA has an opportunity here. It's unlikely that they'll get to the truth prior to the end of this football season. It's just not that simple. It takes a little more time than that. But if they shrug their shoulders here, they are inviting a tidal wave of similar behavior that I just don't think would be good for college athletics.